right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, I want to shift my focus to the U.S. border. Guys, we're not going to fix the border until we elect conservatives that actually want to fix the border. This is going to be a long-term problem, I'm afraid. Listen, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. I realize some of you are going to get upset with me, but I'm of the opinion, and I hope we do it. That is my hope. I want mass deportation. I think that it needs to happen. I just think that it's going to be a lot harder than a lot of us are assuming, because the Democrats have done a great job of making sure that people come into this country absolutely unknown. We have no way to track them. Some of them have been they've basically given them the permission to stay in the country temporarily or on temporary status for 2-3+ years before having to return to court, as if they're going to return to court. And what they'll do is just make it a political issue, and they'll have illegal aliens on camera being deported, and then what you'll have is a bunch of rhinos and a bunch of independents and a bunch of leftists saying, we can't do this to them, we've got to give them amnesty. So for those of you that believe that all of a sudden, if Trump were to get in, and let's pray that he does, there's going to be this mass deportation, I hope that's the case. I don't think it's going to be that simple. I really don't. I hope that I'm wrong. I'm praying that I'm wrong. As a matter of fact, you should pray that I'm wrong. A couple of stories that I do want to share just real quickly here. A judge has ordered the government must house illegal immigrant children. And let me tell you why. Because we're all sympathetic, right? We all feel really bad about this. All right. So nobody wants to see children that aren't being taken care of. Oftentimes, they don't have the choice in a matter. They're abused when they're brought across the border illegally. But it says here, this according to Just the News, a federal judge has ordered the U.S. government to expeditiously, quote unquote, house children who illegally enter the country instead of allowing the children to remain in an open air locations along the border. The order issued late Wednesday evening by California-based U.S. District Court Judge Dolly G. was mostly in favor of the attorneys representing the minors in the class action lawsuit. The decision established that the Department of Homeland Security had legal custody of the children, who were thus entitled to rights and protections, even for being formally processed. That is crazy. That is nonsense. And I got to tell you, that is obviously left wing. And let me just be frank. It must be someone that's a mom. It must be someone that's a woman. And oh, Carl, you're a chauvinist. No, I'm just being real. The left knows how to play with people's emotions. That includes people that are on the bench. Guys, we are so far from what the founders intended. It is not even funny. I mean, judicial activism is just part of the game. One of the things that we're seeing with the persecution of Donald Trump, I was talking to my sister about this yesterday, but one of the things that we're seeing with the persecution of Donald Trump, you realize how many people don't realize that the charges against Donald Trump are just straight up made up. Like they are creating new law under thin air just to, is that the right way to say it? Out of thin air, just to go after this man. You don't even have to like him. Frankly, for those of you that know me, well, I'm not an emotional guy when it comes to these politicians. I think Biden, I'm sorry, I think Trump is a tool to be used in order to advance freedom. I think DeSantis is a tool to be used in order to advance freedom. And at times I felt like DeSantis would have been a better tool to use to be able to advance freedom for us. That's the way that I feel. Now, I am appreciative of Trump's spying. But you have to understand what's going on. You don't have to like the man to understand that it is really dumb. I mean, just all you have to do is have a modicum of common sense. The guy had to post a $54 million bond. Instead, it was reduced thanks to appeals court to $175 million. Now you have New York Attorney General Letitia James trying to go after that bond company and saying, wait a minute, do they even have the funds to be able to secure this bond? I mean, so this stuff is going to continue. The persecutions are going to continue. But it's common sense. Donald Trump wants to buy a property. He needs a loan for a property. He says, okay, I think the property, and they call it over, evaluating or whatever. And I'm like, is it really? If I really think the property is worth this, but yet you come in as a bank and say, no, I think it's worth this. So I'm only going to give you a loan in that amount. Okay, no harm, no foul. Everybody wins. Trump gets the loan. The bank gets to make the interest. Folks, that's what you do every single day. If you buy a house, if you buy a property, that's what happens every single day with every single one of you that has bought a property. But the left is saying that's illegal. The left is saying that what he did in Georgia, he tried to buy votes, or he tried to tell Raffensperger to look for votes. He didn't tell Raffensperger to look for votes. We all knew of all of the anomalies, the weird crap that occurred in 2020. And so what Trump said is, listen, I think they cheated. I think you can find those votes because I think they cheated. In other words, not find votes for him, find enough proof of cheaters and wipe them out. That's all he was saying. And everybody knows it because that's what was in context when you listen to the full interview. All right. But this is exactly what they're doing. Guys, just understand that these political persecutions are something that the left has probably been doing for decades. And now they're just out in the open. That's all that's happening. And it's gotten even more rampant because they've become more corrupt and they don't want to go to jail. They don't want to get in trouble. I'm convinced that it isn't just the idea of Donald Trump being in office that'll ruin a lot of people's finances. I'm convinced that a lot of people are just simply corrupt, and they're scared that if this guy gets in, then now investigations will start on me. I'm genuinely convinced of that. But anyway, this judge has just she's done nothing but hurt more children. She hasn't helped children. They are going to continue to be a political yo-yo, if you will. Now, here's another story. As we focus towards illegal immigration, an illegal alien man, this is News Nation, so they say migrant. I don't say migrant, they're illegal aliens, is facing charges of aggravated murder following the discovery of a body in an alley in Hamilton, Ohio. That's just north of Cincinnati. According to News Nation, Fermin Garcia Gutierrez, 46, has entered the U.S. illegally. That was pretty good on my Spanish on there. Okay. All right. 46 has entered the U.S. illegally multiple times from Mexico and encountered the U.S. legal system several times. This, according to Butler County Sheriff Richard Jones. So how about this? How about if you bust into our country, your dumb butt doesn't get to come back? I don't care if you're a good guy, good gal. I don't give a flip. If you break into the country, you don't get to come back. How about that? How about them apples? I mean, can we agree on some of this crap, for goodness sakes? It's just insane to me. All right, Garcia Gutierrez, who has been deported from the U.S. 7 times, has also been jailed 11 times. Jones said, with his first arrest dating back to 2001, police allege Garcia Gutierrez used at least 7 different names and 3 different birth dates. No. You break into this country and you commit crimes. I mean, your first act in this country is committing a crime, and then you commit more. Adios. I mean, this stuff just absolutely drives me nuts. Okay. So anyway, moving on to that, I'll get to some of the bigger issues when it comes to immigration or illegal immigration. Now, let me share this. Jobless claims rise to the highest rate since January. So this is not going to be great news for the Biden administration. This, according to the Washington Examiner, the number of new applications for unemployment benefits unexpectedly increased by 9,000. Listen to this. The number of new applications for unemployment benefits unexpectedly increased by 9,000. Okay, by 9, I thought they said from 9 to 200. I was like, oh, that's uncanny. By 9,000 to 212,000. All right. Last week, that's the highest level since January. The reading marks the highest number of jobless claims in months and shows the labor market might be taking on a bit of water as the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates high and teases another upward rate revision. Jobless claims are seen as a proxy for layoffs. If more people are claiming unemployment insurance, it suggests workers are getting laid off. The new numbers are in line with some expectations the labor market will soften. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on. It could be people moving on from other jobs, but I do believe they're right. And that is an indicator that the labor market is softening, that it's not good. And it's no wonder when you look at places like California, where the minimum wage is $20 an hour at fast food joints, pimple faced kids that are working in fast food joints now making $20 an hour. What's going to happen? What's going to happen if you're one of the big boys? You're going to absolutely do fine. But the truth of the matter is, and a lot of people don't understand this, whether it's a McDonald's, whether it's a Burger King, whatever the unless you're, own Panera Bread and Gavin Newsom hooks you up because you donated to his campaign. But you're one of these small business owners. Those are franchises. It's not necessarily like this major corporation, right? That comes in and saving the day. They're owners that own these stores individually that are trying to make a profit so that they can make a living and so that their employees can make a living at the right age. All right. These are starter jobs. This isn't where you stay unless you intend to become a manager or perhaps own a McDonald's or something like that, Taco Bell, whatever it may be, on your own one day. This nonsense that the minimum wage is a living wage is absolutely ludicrous. It's a complete and utter lie. It's a starting wage, meaning you gain basic skills in the job market and you move on. Or you might see elderly people that will come in and maybe they're getting Social Security. They need a little more change. And so they'll get a job at a fast food place, or they may get a job. We see it all the time at a grocery store. Sometimes it may be out of sheer boredom, but oftentimes it's to supplement income. And oftentimes people that you see inside of fast food places, overwhelmingly so, I think the numbers are like over 95%, right? Over 95% of the people, I'll just say that to be safe, that are working inside of fast food establishments or either people and pimple faced kids, people that are supplementing an income, Social Security, something like that, or people that may be older than the average worker, but they live in a household where they're supplementing an income, meaning they're not the primary caretaker. That's the vast majority of minimum wage workers. And now it's $20 an hour. So essentially 40 grand a year if you work a minimum wage, your first job. How insane is that? Of course, you're going to bring down the value of the dollar. And then why shouldn't you pay somebody now that's more skilled in another job? Why not pay them 80 grand, 150 grand, 300 grand? I mean, this is just so asinine. So the numbers are going to calm down because here's what's going to happen. A little mom and pop hardware store can't compete with the Home Depot or Lowe's. So if they have to pay $20 an hour, you know what's going to happen? They're going to fire people because they can't afford them, or they're going to shut their doors. And then the left is going to get exactly what they want, the end of small business in America. That's what they really want. That's what they really want, just so you understand that. But jobless claims are ticking up, and wherever minimum wage hikes occur, more jobless claims are going to happen. Not to mention, all of that is going to be offset by the consumer because you're just going to pay a higher price for the burger and fries. All right. That's what's going to happen. This is I hate when people talk about the minimum wage, don't know what the hell they're talking about. It just makes me mad. All right, so some of the hidden costs of the border crisis. This was an interesting story, and we'll wrap up with this that I found in. It was an interesting story. Let me just read it. More bad news for Biden. Is it rosy retrospection or just fact? I don't know what that's about. More bad news for Biden. Is it a rosy introspection? This from the Washington Examiner. I just clicked on this real quick. The 2024 pop-up. Presidential election is extraordinary in a lot of ways, but especially in this one, voters can judge the presidential job performance of both major candidates. It has only happened once before in 1892 when former President Grover Cleveland ran against incumbent President Benjamin Harrison. Cleveland won and became the only U.S. president so far to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. That may happen with Trump. I mean, we are living through history. That is one of the exciting things about this, because both men have served as president. Voters can compare the job each did, is at the heart of new polling from the Wall Street Journal. And the news is far better for Trump than it is for Joe Biden. Yeah, when you're comparing apples to apples, and that's what the left wants to do. all they're doing is they're creating these political cases against Trump so that all you think about and all that you hear people say is Trump is a criminal, Trump is a criminal, Trump is a criminal. Because if you focus on Trump is a criminal, Trump is a criminal, Trump is a criminal, even though he's not been convicted of anything, people are already saying, oh, he's a criminal. He's, he's done this, he's done that. As they make up new law from thin air. But when you focus on that, what do you not focus on? You don't focus on the fact that we have a wide open border. You don't focus on, the joblessness claims that I just mentioned. The economy is doing worse. You don't focus on the fact that, the Afghanistan withdrawal. You don't focus on the fact that Biden is a big reason why the Russia-Ukraine war started. You focus on all you do is focus on Trump instead of focusing on the policies that are hurting you. All right. But the advantage that Trump has, and he is so blessed or lucky to have had this, is he served right before Biden. So we can see the disaster, right? We can see how much better, at least in Trump's first 3 years. I'm sorry, he got duped during COVID, but in his first 3 years, how great his presidency was compared to Biden's. And how much better off many Americans were. So anyway, so it's bad news for Biden. Apparently, there's a poll, Wall Street Journal poll, that is not looking good for him with the findings of other swing state polls, and they undercut some of the recent wishful commentary about a Biden comeback. The most interesting part of the Wall Street Journal poll came from these two questions. One, do you approve or disapprove of the job Biden is doing as president? And two, do you approve or disapprove of the job Trump did as president? 38% job approval versus 60% job approval. Trump's were far better. 51% job approval versus 47% disapproval. Now they say, now remember, those are just the results from 7 swing states combined, but still those are the states that will likely determine who wins in November. So basically, Trump is leading in the swing states. I wish he was leading by 20. That isn't going to be the case. Basically, we need to show up. And listen, don't take these polls for granted. All right. Don't take these polls for granted. It's as simple as that. All right. Now, actually, I shouldn't say that. Listen, don't rely on the polls. Go to the polls. Don't rely on them. Make sure you get people out. We have to win. We have to win. All right, guys, it's as simple as that. We have to win. All right, this from the Epoch Times. Let me just share with you, share this story with you real quick, or this information with you real quick. I think it's I just think it's important. It's as simple as that. And that's this. This is the title, The Hidden Cost of the Border Crisis That Nobody Tells You About, or that no one talks about. Fascinating story I put up earlier. Sorry, ADD. Oh, by the way, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. That includes Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please share it with somebody. Guys, we really appreciate that. I'm just being real with you. This thing doesn't grow without the help of sponsors, and frankly, without the help of people like you that are listening to the show, and you go and say, hey, guys, listen to this podcast. You got to check this guy out. So if you do enjoy the podcast in that way, I would be honored and humbled if you would please make sure that you share it. Also, all things social media. Find me somewhere on social media. I am on X. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, True Social Getter, wherever I am on social media at The Carl Jackson Show. I must admit that I focus a lot of my time on X. We're getting better at Instagram. But I will try to respond wherever. I also focus a lot of time on Facebook, but I'm pretty stagnant there, so I get a little frustrated. But I do try to respond to as many messages as I possibly can. So I do share that. All right. The hidden cost of the border crisis. Here's a summary. This from Eagle Pass, Texas. Mass illegal immigration, and hat to Epoch Times. Mass illegal immigration is pushing rescue crews in this small Texas border town close to their breaking point. The mighty Rio Grande has become a river of misery for Eagle Pass Fire Chief Manuel Mello III and his 52 first responders. His medics sometimes confide, quote, Chief, I'm sick and tired of going out to the river and pulling bodies out, close quote. Can you imagine that? We don't talk about that stuff. Chief Mello interviewed with the Epoch Times, and he described how much the border crisis is affecting his department's rescue workers. He says they are grappling with record numbers of drowned men, women, and children who die while crossing the river from Mexico into the United States. He says the crews are risking their lives in what he describes as nightmare scenarios with unidentified people who are either sick, they're hurt, and imagine what's coming into the country now. I mean, just sit and think about that. We're probably encountering diseases. I mean, there was wasn't there like an outbreak of measles inside one of these um, shelters where they're housing illegal aliens? I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. So these people are encountering that firsthand. Our first line of defense, these border patrol agents, these firemen and women. But we often think of border patrol agents. We don't think of, what's happening beyond that. But these people are on the front lines as well. And again, they're dealing with the sick, the hurt, the dead. And they say not just along the river, but also nearby roads where bodies are being found, ranches, railways where bodies are being found. And they even have, they talk about how residents, and we know this, are having to compete against medical care. They are sending so many ambulances back and forth that they to deal with illegal aliens that they can't deal with the residents of Eagle Pass. He says there are days it seems that the ambulance wells never stop. This is what the chief told a congressional committee, and he was testifying before a congressional committee, giving some of this information. He noting that many of those ambulances are headed toward the Rio Grande and its surrounding areas. He says even residents are starting to see washed up bodies along the riverbank. Could you imagine being a kid walking by? Have you ever seen a dead body? I mean, have you ever? And I don't mean in a funeral setting. That's probably everyone listening. But just out like somewhere. I've seen that a couple of times in my life. It's a weird thing. Like you know what I'm saying? Oh my God. But a couple of times, I'm not kidding. Like I saw, there was a time where I literally witnessed a murder in LA, somebody laying in the street. There was another time where passing by a gas station in Watts, California, there was a body there in the middle of the gas station, and it was semi-covered. There was another time, I believe it was a gas station here, if I recall correctly, somewhere in Orlando where I was passing by when I was much younger, and there was a body at another gas station. I mean, it was just weird, but it was in a bad neighborhood. I don't know if it was an overdose. I don't know if the person was shot. Who knows? But anyway, it's just a weird thing to see. These people are saying that every single day and up close. I didn't have to go touch the body. I didn't have to go grab anyone. I didn't have to go smell anything. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? I know I'm being a little gross, but that's the way that it works. Here's a quote from one of the residents, a person by the name of Ruben Camarillo. It breaks my heart to know that there are children drowning in the river. There are people on the way over here being raped and being robbed. This is what people are considering out there. Eagle Pass resident Ruben Camarillo, a 35-year-old father of a 9-year-old son, they say. He stood on the city street corner in support. That's unimportant. But basically, this guy's supporting Trump because he can't stand what's happening in his community, being overrun by illegals. And it's not a hatred for illegals. It's like, this is what we're seeing, dude. We're being overrun, and we're seeing bodies that are, nobody talks about that part. Rescuers need assistance. They talk about the cost of carrying illegals in ambulances. And again, first responders coping with the trauma. As I mentioned, now they're seeking funds to basically cover costs from hundreds, listen to that, of ambulance runs carrying illegal aliens. The chief is also trying to secure counseling for first responders who are coping with the stress and trauma that linger long after they go off of duty for all of the things that they're seeing, especially when it comes to drowned children. When they see that happening more and more, he says the chief does. The mental impact will take a long time to heal if we do not get help for them soon. You know how many of these guys may, hopefully not, but commit suicide seeing this stuff? Numbers are high when it comes to doctors, when it comes to first responders. Suicide rates are pretty high. Nothing beats trans, I believe, but they're really high. All right, I could be wrong on that, but trans are really, really high. All right, And then the chief is just hoping for some type of bipartisan agreement. Hey, listen, things are so bad here. We got to stem the tide. And the truth is, it's just not going to happen, chief. I hate to say this, but it's not going to happen. You got a bunch of rhino Republicans that don't mind, and big willers and dillers that don't mind illegal immigration too. There's a handful of people in Washington, D.C. that you can trust. All you can do is try to make sure that you strengthen your own state for the most part, because that's just where we're at. I mean, I hate to admit it. That's where we're at. Eagle Pass is the they also mentioned how the problems just don't exist along Eagle Pass. They say it's every single fire department along the border. So the chief of Eagle Pass is saying it's not just us. This is what every single chief, and we don't think, again, this isn't on our mind. All right. And again, Eagle Pass has been the epicenter. Let me just give you some numbers. They say Eagle Pass has been affected more than the average border town. At points, the chief said, we have had 1,500 people crossing the Rio Grande at one time. He says one evening, 2,000 people were lined up waiting to be transferred to a U.S. Border Patrol processing station. By the next morning, the line had grown to 4,000 people. Talk about 5 loaves. and a fish. He says that influx fits into a larger picture. Since taking office in 2021, Biden has enacted more than 500 immigration policies. Listen to that. Biden wants to blame Trump. He wants to blame Republicans. But this is a guy that has enacted 500 immigration policies, many of which reversed Trump's policies, most of which. Illegal border crossings during Biden's administration have surpassed the 9 million mark, mostly at the U.S.-Mexico border, I believe, under Trump's entire administration. And he spent the first couple of years trying to get it under control, but not doing a good job. But even then, I think it was 2.5 million after all 4 years of Trump. We're at 9 million with Biden, and we haven't even reached the end of his administration, Lord willing, this November. Again, Eagle Pass caught the epicenter of the crisis. Listen to this stat. 1 month, 17 drownings. So when Chief Mello joined the fire department, this was back in 1992. So we're talking about 32 years. So the guy's near retirement, all right? The Rio Grande strong currents would snatch about 6 lives a year. So in 1992, when he first joined the fire department, they would see 6 bodies per year. That's how many, well, no, that's not how many. The department recently recovered 17 victims in a single month. 6 people per year, so on average once every couple of months. Now you're talking about 17 bodies in a month. So instead of 1 body every couple of months, now you're talking about a body nearly every couple of days. Just sit and think about that. Again, this is the stuff that we don't want to think about. I could go on. The stories don't get any better. The stats don't get any better. But guys, it's just a reminder that we have to definitely call our congressmen and say, listen, man, we want this situation solved. And don't let them distract you. All the Biden administration is trying to do is distract you. Guys, if we don't seal the border, if we don't have a sovereign nation, we don't have a country. We don't have a country. I was looking at some of the numbers of what this chief is putting out. Apparently, they have an annual budget of $6 million. And so far, they've spent $437,400 transporting illegal aliens this year. $6 million budget, nearly $500,000 spent on illegal aliens so far this year. This can't be sustained. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Don't forget to follow me on all things social media. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.